Oh man, not again. So yes, let's talk about exclusive games. The favorite topic of fanboys and fangirls who will fight you to the death to defend their choice of a gaming platform provider. Whether it's the Genesis does what Nintendo don't PR spin from the 90s or the modern competition between Microsoft and Sony, somewhere there's a flag planted on a hill with someone ready to defend it. So what is an exclusive game anyways? If you're one person that needs to know this, I'll just give you a simple lowdown. An exclusive game is one that will only run on a particular gaming platform. If you want to play that said game, you have to own the platform it was designed for. If you don't have the right gaming system, well, you either have to fork out the cash for it or do without it. In the past, the success or failure of a given system could be determined by the quality and quantity of its exclusive games, but that seems to be changing with the current generation of consoles. So then the question starts to become, are exclusive games a dying breed? Let's take a closer look at this issue. So why would you want to make a game that only runs on one particular system? There are a couple reasons that account for the existence of exclusive games that operate on a number of levels, but for my purposes, I'm going to focus on just mainly two. The first reason is from a business perspective. It makes a whole lot of sense for a platform owner like Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft to have certain games that can only be played on their console. If a game is good enough and popular enough, it will sell a system. Once the company has already got you to buy the hardware and put it into your home, you're likely then to buy more games for it. It's important to remember that almost every modern console, with the few notable exceptions such as the Wii U, have been sold at a loss, at least early in the console's life cycle. The platform owner doesn't make its money from selling hardware, it actually makes its money from licensing fees levied on every copy. That's why most exclusive games are developed by first and second party developers. In other words, the platform owner develops a game themselves or pays someone to develop the game for them and no one else. If the first wave of first party titles can get a critical mass of consoles into the hands of consumers, that should snowball third party developer titles and make the whole thing profitable for everyone. The next reason some games are exclusive is purely technical. Many platforms are incompatible with one another on a fundamental level. For example, most smartphones and tablets today use processors that are based on the ARM architecture. That code can't just be run on a processor in, for example, your laptop, because it uses a different architecture called x86. That's just one form of incompatibility between platforms, and there's a lot of others. For instance, the operating systems on the PlayStation and the Xbox are not compatible with one another. So to develop your game for multiple platforms represents a significant increase in cost, people, and time. With the exception of some things like concept art or art assets that are in universal formats, you essentially have to develop large parts of your game again and again for different platforms. You also have to take account for hardware differences. For example, some titles coming to the Xbox or PlayStation simply couldn't be gimped down to something the Wii U could run, Project Cars being a recent case in point. When we talk about porting a game, it usually means taking a game coded for one platform and then painstakingly rewriting the incompatible parts for it to run on a new platform. As you can probably guess, this really only makes sense if there's a good reason to believe people will buy enough copies on the new platform to turn a profit for the developers. Also, no matter how much you have in terms of development resources, developing for multiple platforms inevitably means that you're creating multiple versions of one game with less polish than a single version would have, which is why sometimes we see ports being done by a third party long after the original versions have tapped its sales potential. Although developers and platform owners have different reasons for wanting platform exclusive games, in the past both benefited from this arrangement. Things today are, however, no longer the same. The first big shakeup game with the current generation of consoles is the unification of hardware architecture. Both of the big players now use almost identical hardware based off of AMD technology. A lot of the development tools and engines that are used by modern game developers are also cross-platform to a much greater extent. Even AAA developers are unlikely to bother developing their own game engines when there's so many flexible and powerful options available for a licensing fee. There's a reason why almost every game that you play nowadays either runs on Unreal Engine, Unity, CryEngine, or ID Tech, to name a few. You may also realize that the hardware architecture that Sony and Microsoft now share is the same found on modern PCs. Even better, the Xbox One and Windows computers even share the same API in the form of DirectX. So yes, there's still some overhead involved in developing a game as a cross-platform title, but the cost and effort has been drastically reduced. Suddenly, it takes much less for cross-platform development to be profitable, and developers find the prospect of doubling the market they have access to hard to ignore. Platform owners obviously still want exclusives to shift consoles, a much harder sell to developers that they don't own. It seems that the true exclusive has all but died in the modern gaming age. Instead, what we're seeing is something called a time exclusive, which means that the developer was paid some cash to hold back on releasing a game for one platform so that the owners of their console can play it first. After a set amount of time, however, everyone gets to play it. Well, except for those people who own Wii U's. Bless their hearts. The way that I see it, at a larger scale, platform exclusivity is dying a rapid death. Unless the next generation of consoles return us to hardware incompatibility, there's little reason to think that the situation will turn around. To be honest, the PS4 Pro, or they just should have kept with the word Neo, and Xbox Scorpio may just perhaps mean the end of console generations, with consoles simply getting more powerful but retaining backwards compatibility to the same way iPads or PCs do. The final question is, of course, whether this is a good thing. My opinion is that on balance, the answer is a very strong yes. Game exclusives were never good for gamers, even if they were fooled into thinking so. It was an anti-consumer practice that doesn't have any reason to be. I think that platform owners realize this and are probably starting to shift the value propositions of their consoles away from exclusive games. Even Sony has realized recently that it can profit by opening up the PlayStation ecosystem, even if it's by a little bit. That's why just recently we have access to PlayStation Now available on PC, where you'll be able to stream your games like The Last of Us and the Uncharted series on your Windows PC. Something like that would have been unthinkable in the previous console generation. So what's your take on the whole exclusive games thing? Do you think they are good for us as gamers, or are you happy they seem to be going away? And will they possibly end the console war? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like and share it on social media with your friends? If you wish to support me further, I actually have a Patreon where you can back me to allow me to continue making quality content and research further on more gaming topics and try out more games. As always, my name is Ethos, and I'll catch you guys later.